Hey, good evening. Here it is. Let me look. 5:45 in Minnesota in the Central Time Zone. It's cold outside. Maybe, I don't know, 6 degrees, something like that. And it's going to get colder. I hope you're somewhere other than here. Anyway, what I'm trying to do is catch everybody up on this lamp project. I still don't know or haven't received word yet about the mold. And I'm on this video tonight or this evening because I'm going to show you what one of these molds look like. I'm waiting to find out about the mold for the Wisteria, which is this lamp, and everybody's more familiar with I'm looking at these in a book, right? Anyway, more familiar with the blue Wisteria. They come in quite a few different colors, but generally when people that are knowledgeable enough to know anything about Tiffany lamps, the real thing, they think of these blue, lighter blue here. Most of the time that's what people think of. And evidently, from what I can gather and all the stuff I've read about these lamps, is this was the predominant color scheme. Sometimes there was a little more purple, like you can see here. Sometimes more blue. Sometimes there were whole sections of flowers coming down that were white, then blue. I've seen them all white. On a rare occasion have I seen them this color. And in fact, one of my Facebook folks that follows a lot of my stuff sent me this picture, and I blew this up. Then I had in my other computer, I had the picture blown up some more, and I've got to print it out. I didn't print it out because I'm going to study this one here real close. I'm kind of leaning toward, although that's the traditional color, and I've built one of these in 1982, and it was this color. And however, in the last few years, I wanted to build one of these, and I thought over this period of time that I really didn't want to go with a conventional color, and I wanted to do something real unusual. And so I decided that I would hang on to, and I have 3 sheets of this glass, and I'm explaining to you how important this glass is. I have 3 sheets of this. I bought this glass a long time ago, and I bought this glass to do a Wisteria lamp, and there's all the colors. And in fact, the company that made this glass, and people that are in the business that I'm in, will certainly recognize that logo right there, Ouroboros. And Ouroboros made, for those of us that are in this business, some of the best glass in the world. I won't take anything away from Yakagani, another company, Kokomo, another company, but I used a lot of Ouroboros, and I just loved their glass. Anyway, about 5, 6, 7 years ago, the owner of the company got about as old as I am and said he had had enough and sold. That was it. It was over with. They stopped production and they don't make it anymore. And I'm going to explain to you why this glass, this particular piece, I have 3 of these, and that's a lot of glass. They're more than enough to do this lamp. Why this piece of glass is so important. Look down here. Oh, let's see. I don't know where this phone's going to pick that. Let me go this way. Boy, if I drop that, I just go over here on the floor and start crying. Okay, look at that. That top number up there is the date. That's 1998. So this glass is coming up 24 years old. And I've hung on to this glass for this entire time, this and 2 other sheets, to build this Wisteria lamp. And I thought, well, someday I'm going to build it. And if I have to build it for myself, I'll just build it for me. Fortunately, I have a client that wants it. I've talked a little bit about him, but I've done 3 major windows for him, and he bought my trumpet creeper lamp, which is a lamp that has this same exact base, same exact size. Now, these lamps are an awful lot bigger than what they look like in these books. And in fact, here's a perfect example. This, let me go back to that page I was on. Here. That's Tiffany's laburnum. And it's a glass that's probably, or lamp rather, I'm sorry, that's probably about as difficult to build as the Wisteria that I'm about to take off on. There's more glass in the Wisteria than there is in this laburnum. And then the laburnum, built in 1906, about the same time as this Wisteria that's in this book, came with this, what we call a bird skeleton base. And I talked about this bird skeleton base, I think, in my last video. And I had I'll mention again that I had a chance to buy that base and there's my laburnum, and put my laburnum on this base. But I had it hanging over my table. I've done 2 of these. The other ones, I did the other one for a client, and then I liked it so much I built another one. And I don't know, for some oddball reason, that would normally just knock your socks off to have to do, to get in there and work that hard on something. But I really enjoyed that whole lamp, and I think I did because it was so pretty. Let me turn the light off in here and turn that on. I hope, stay with me here, and you'll see why people, now, of course, you're not looking at this thing like you would I've got some larger light bulbs in that thing. But that's why people buy these things. To have that in your study or hanging over the right dining room table and the right light on it. If I had that in my house, I'd turn that or use a little bit smaller light bulbs in it. But that's a good looking lamp. And that's what makes those things so beautiful. And every single piece of that thing was picked out to be on that place, in that spot, with that look. So let me turn this light back on, and then we'll go on with the form. There's a little angel there. There she is. Hi, baby. All right, so this is the form these things are built on. Look at the size of that thing. You just can't get an idea of how big these lamps are until you start to look at them. This is fiberglass, and it's... There we go. I think I'm having a little bit of a Wi-Fi connection issue here. So anyway, we're back to it. This form has the pattern etched onto it. And on my Facebook page tonight, I've laid out the pattern and how these are laid out so you know which pieces to put where. And then the design that I've laid out on the parts of my Facebook page earlier than now. I'm kind of goofed up here because when the phone locked up, and I thought, well, I don't know whether I'm here or I'm not. Anyway, you can see from what I have posted on Facebook that the design repeats itself 3 times. So that might not be that easy to show you. Let's see. Let's find a place here. Okay, right here, see where those 2 leaves are coming down? If we move around the lamp, we'll come back to that same place there, and then back around to it there. So the design repeats itself 3 times around that lamp. And you can see the inside. See, these light bulbs here are much larger than what you would normally have if you were using that in your home. I cleaned that lamp up today so it wasn't quite so dirty. Anyway, so all of the pieces are cut from a paper pattern, or mylar in some cases. If you get the pattern and the form, generally you'll get 1 piece of mylar. In fact, I don't know how hard this is going to be to do. I was going to do this before I got you guys on the live thing here. Let's see. Here we go. Here is, I wonder if I can do this. Yeah. Bear with me here. Well, I'll just open one of these up. It should have had this done already. Well, anyway, there you go. There's 1 pattern right there. 22-inch laburnum fluted dome. So that's what they look like. And I lay out 3 of these because the design, and it says right there, repeats itself 3 times. It says 1977 pieces. I thought it was 1985, but what are we talking about? 8 pieces? No big deal. So anyway, there they are. And if you start to look at the pattern, man, some of those pieces are really small. Some of them are a really odd shape. Look at this thing. And, it's a requirement to get that cut so it fits the rest of these. Anyway, that's the pattern for the laburnum. So the wisteria, back over to here. The wisteria will be done the same way. You get the pattern pieces, set them up, cut each piece of glass, and then this form is painted with a clear wax we call tacky wax, and it's kind of sticky. So you heat this wax and you paint that wax on this form, and you may be able to see some brush marks here where there you go, where the wax had been on there. Okay, so it's got wax all over the whole form. The design has been imprinted on the form, and you take your pattern and you lay that pattern, you cut that out, and by the way, you cut inside that black line right there, inside there, and I use an X-Acto knife, cut inside that black line, and then you've got to cut a piece of glass and fit it that shape right there. We're looking at number 73. All right, then you take that piece of glass and you go and find wherever 73 is on this thing, and it's sticky, right? You've got wax on it. You take that piece of glass and you stick it on that form. If it fits and you like the way it fits, maybe you'd want to do 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces around it to make sure they fit that form exactly right and they butt up to each other exactly right. Then, after you do that, you'll come back, and I've got some copper foil wrapped around. This is just a little piece of scrap glass that I pulled out from under a counter back here. That's actually kind of large compared to some of the pieces on there. Anyway, and I did not burnish this glass or this foil down, but the foil is 1/1000th of an inch thick, and this foil here is wider than what we would use on this lamp. This foil here, let me turn this around so you can see it. This foil here is 7/32 of an inch wide, and the foil that is going to be used on the pieces on this lamp is 3/16. So it's more narrow than this. Anyway, you wrap that foil around that glass, and then I'm trying to do this with one hand. This is not easy. And you burnish that foil back on the edge of that glass. All right, then that glass sets on this form, right, with the foil on it. And then when we get enough of those on there that we like the way it fits, looks good, then you can come on with your soldering iron now and just tack those down so they don't move around on you. Generally, they shouldn't move around on you, but you want to lock them down. And then after you get the whole thing covered with glass, everything's foiled, then you set this thing on a vise, and I have a vise to rotate this lamp form around so you're able to solder. And bear in mind that solder is metal, right, but turns into a liquid. Well, gravity will take hold, and you can only solder in the horizontal. So this form has to be, say, rotate. If we were going to solder right up here, we'd rotate our vise around, and we would have a small area on the form right here that we could solder on. And then we've got to continually move, constantly moving and moving and moving and moving to keep that form and the lamp that's sitting on it in the horizontal. No, you can't have hardly any 3, 4, 5 degrees up, down, left, right will cause the solder to run. So you want a good solder bead, and that's how we're getting these beads on here to set up. After you do the outside of this thing, and it's all soldered on the outside, it's still not very strong because it's not been soldered on the inside. So then you've got to get it off here. There's numerous ways of doing that. Some people put a heat lamp up inside this thing and heat it up enough to melt the tacky wax so that the form can be lifted, or the lamp can be lifted off the form lifted off the lamp. Some people use a heat gun, and what you're trying to do is get this thing warm enough that it will release itself from the lamp. That can take, hour and a half if you've got a lamp underneath here. Whatever works. But if a person's building a lamp like this, with this many pieces, and as difficult as this thing is, they've got that part figured out. Anyway, once you release it from this form, it's still relatively weak because it's not been soldered on the inside. Now there's quite a few things. I'm going to try to find a spot here. There, I think I see a spot. Okay, on this lamp right here, and you run around the whole perimeter of the lamp, all the way around the lamp. You use a copper wire, and you've got to continually move around here and shape that wire to the shape of the outside of this lamp all the way around. I think I can barely see a spot right there where the wire might be right there. Anyway, the idea is you don't want to see it. So you go all the way around that lamp with that wire. Now right there, yeah, that's right there. Okay, now there's another wire, copper wire, going up, and I can see it going all the way up from the bottom edge of that thing right there, all the way up through the lamp, clear up to the top, that ring up there. There are 6 of those. Let's see if we can find another one. I think there's one right there, where my thumb is. You can just barely see that roundness of that wire. And that's going to go up and follow that, jaggedy design all the way up. I'm looking around, see if I could. The idea, of course, is you don't want. Yeah, I think I see it. Okay, right. Oh yeah, there it is. Look at there. Right there. You see that wire coming down that long branch to the bottom. And there it is again. Okay, I'm gonna put this thing. Okay, if you know what you're looking for, you can actually see a little round spot there. Oh, I see it right. Let's see if that's, where did it go? There it is, right there. Okay, so anyway, there's 6 of those that go up. Now, I thought about it for a second ago, and then I went out of my head, and now it's back in. I said that design repeated itself 3 times. The Wisteria repeats itself 5 times. And I mentioned in the last video that I'll have a pattern with about 400 pieces of glass on that one pattern. That pattern is the one I'll lay out 5 times, that same pattern. And then I'll cut from the original pattern. For instance, let's just take this odd shaped piece right here. We'll cut that piece right there 5 times. Now I'm gonna build this particular wisteria on a light table. So I'll set my pattern and everything up so that when I get onto the light table, I'll be able to watch these colors come about on the light table, and I'll be able to pick out what I'm doing. If you look at this, a little more pink here, of course that's subject to the printer and all the rest of that. Anyway, if you look at this glass, there's and if you look at this drawing, or picture rather, there's some dark glass on the bottom, darker glass. And look at this. So there's so many places that this glass is perfect, and that's why I have it. And so I'll be working with this sheet, working the lighter colors, and I think probably what I'll do is I'll take this sheet and cut it in about 5 different strips. And that way I'll be able to get to sections of the piece of glass that I want to get to for particular pieces. And so with 2,000 pieces of glass in this particular lamp, you'll be working to try to make that piece right there the way you want it. Right there. You just don't start whacking this stuff out, but you're paying attention to the glass itself. And for instance, see, if you wanted a piece of white glass, you would work in here. Maybe you would want a piece of glass, and you get right down to nitty-gritty here, whereas here you'd want a little bit of the glass that had a little bit of that lavender in it. So you could take one piece of glass. I'm looking if they've got something similar to that. Not a really good picture here, but there are all different kind of, looking here, where there's a mix here where it's real subtle. There we are right there. So you'd be studying this particular picture and trying to get this sheet to work out piece by piece by piece where you want to go with that lamp. Look down here now. Boy, that's beautiful glass. I'm feeling it's real dirty, so I'll get this cleaned up and get ready for the project. But I'm going to build this lamp unless I'm sure my client pays attention to some of the stuff, particularly if it's associated with his project. But unless he's really opposed to this particular glass, I'm going to go that direction rather than this direction. Although that appears to be what the majority of these lamps were built, the color scheme they were built. Maybe he doesn't care for lavender or whatever. But if he does, then we'll go to the blue. But here we've got glass here nearly 25 years old, and the beautiful thing about this is I don't see anybody else coming along with anything, or at least this glass. I bet this glass would be hard to find anywhere, no matter what you wanted to pay for it. And I bet that sheet of glass is worth some serious money, particularly since it's nearly 25 years old. I tell you what, that 1998 date stamp on there is a big deal. Because, boy, there are people that just live and breathe this Uroboros glass. And I've got actually quite a bit of it. And so I'm lucky because I just bought a bunch of it and loved it and kept it all these years. But I guess me and a few other glass people would look at that sticker and just really get excited. Because this stuff nobody's making anything like this. Well, I take that back. There is another company that's making a similar glass, but they don't have this color combination. They don't have this purple lavender the same as this. This is a stunning piece of glass. So what we would be doing here when we built this particular lamp is you're going to build a lamp you don't seldom ever see to start with. And then you're going to build it out of glass that you can't buy anywhere. And so what we are doing here now is just creating something really, really unique. So I'm still waiting to find out about the mold. I don't have the mold on this thing locked down yet. That being a mold, you got to have that mold. So I'm optimistic that I can get it. I'll find one somewhere. But if I found the mold, but not the pattern, then I would have to make my own pattern, which I would rather not do because that's a hassle. And you could see why it's a hassle. See, hope I can hold this so you can see this. See this area right here? Well, of course, the lamp is odd shaped, and I'm looking at it upside down, but the pattern here, well, look like I'm real prepared for this video. Anyway, the pattern here is flat, so that this is just a dead area here, and obviously these here come together on the lamp. So if I'm going to have to make a pattern that fits this mold, then I'm going to have to do a whole bunch of weird jockeying around with some tracing paper to get up in here and compensate for the fact that I'm going over this, rounded edge of this thing. And I certainly hope I can get the pattern. But if I can't, then and I can find the mold, then I'll just have to do what I have to do. I do have some superb craftsmen that are going to make the base for me and the crown up here, this open crown. They're going to make that for me. So anyway, I'm in pretty good shape if I can find the mold, and the jury's not out on that, or the jury is out rather on that, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm in kind of some anxiety. I've been in anxiety over this for about 10 days about actually getting the mold and the pattern. But I think sooner or later I'm going to find them. And my wholesaler that I do a lot of business with is looking, and we know where to ask. We just have to hope that the people we're asking say, yeah, we'll make it, and we'll go from there. But I hate to do all this, put all this effort, and I'm so excited about this lamp, and then find out that, well, for one reason or another, I can't build it. But that we're not there yet, and I won't give up. I'll dig till I find the mold for this thing. So anyway, I guess that's where I am now. I wanted to talk to you about how these are built, and go back to my Facebook page and look on there, or you're on there now probably. Anyway, and look at the still pictures of the laburnum being built, and this lamp here will be built exactly the same way. I'm out of gas for today. What is it now? About 6:10. Yeah, I'm ready to fold up the tent. Some days I get in here, can be a long day in here, and I'm still working on this thing, and this has been going on for some time, and that doesn't look like much, but that's paint that's been applied to that glass, and here I am. This is green paint, if you can believe it. When you fire that, it's going to have a green tint to it. And over here, I've got these little openings here, and I'm going to come back, and I'm anticipating painting these blue. So I'm coming back, and the only way you can get those back clear is you have to sit here, and you have to be real careful and take this old paint, not old, but this fresh paint that's dried, see, and you're going to go back here, and you need to obviously stay in that little rectangle and then cut out this little spot there. So I got to do that on these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's another one, 6. In fact, I had it over on the light table. Let's do this. Yeah, so you can see how I'm doing this. Now I can see the rectangle that originated with the work to start with. I have put that in there now, and I've got to come in here and burnish this off. And then on this end of my little paintbrush, I've got to pry along there. Then I take an X-Acto knife and get down in there. Then I've got to come over here and do this little area. Then come back up here, and I don't know whether you might be able to see. You can see that this area right in here is a little bit lighter. And we took a paintbrush here, focus in on that. I burnt the bristles off of it and made it kind of stiff so I can come in here and see if I can do this one-handed. Yeah, see there? So I'm trying to take that back to the glass. Then when I get that cleaned up, these are ready. We'll go back into the kiln right here. Back into the kiln. Here's a test firing right here. Here's some lighter blue, darker blue, and I'm test firing that to see what that looks like, because I want to come back into these little slots here and put some of that blue. Then come back over here, and I had originally decided that this was going to be emerald green. I changed my mind, a little too bright, so we're coming back in here with some other color out here. But anyway, these little dudes here go along here. So that's going on, and oh man, a lot of stuff. Anyway, I appreciate all the interest in this lamp. I'm excited about it. I probably still 2-3 weeks away at best getting the form, mold, and the pattern. So I'll calm down after another day or two of just waiting on it, and go off and get this done over here. And then I got some other stuff I need to be doing, take off on. But between now and then, my mind's been on this, and so I've caught you up to date. We'll all just have to wait together. Once this thing starts and I lay this lamp out, it's really slow going, so won't be a whole lot of video. Maybe once every few days, just to keep you up to date of where I'm at with it and how the pieces are going. But ooh, I remember the first one of these I did, or the only one I've done, 1982. I was talking to some people today about this, and I got a pretty good, how do I want to say this? I sold this lamp for a pretty good bunch of money back in 1982, and it was the largest commission I had had at that time. And I got real excited about it, and I didn't really have any concept of how ridiculous 2,000 pieces of glass is. And so I started that job, and it was for a person that had been a good client of mine, and not somebody you're going to say, well, it's too hard, I can't do it. I got 800 pieces into that thing, maybe 1,000 pieces into it, and I thought about giving the deposit back, because I thought, oh man, I can't believe I'm not even halfway through, because this is a long haul. This was a long haul, this many pieces. And I've said that, I think I said this today, I should say it again. I've said it numerous times on these videos, that you just could not do this for money. Although we certainly get paid well to do it, money will not motivate you on a project like this, and it certainly won't motivate you on a project like this, because the distance from the start of this thing to the end of the thing when you actually get paid is a long way. And you just have to really love to do this stuff to take off into one of these. Now, I'm not that unique that I'm the only person, that feels that way about these. Everybody that builds, and there are numerous folks in the United States that are very good at this, many of them better than I am. And those people, I can safely say that they all feel the same way. They got into this the same way I got into it, fell in love with the craft, and just knuckled down and learned how to do it. And it took a long time to get to the level where you're knocking out stuff like this. And so all of these people get paid well to do this work, but it's just never been about money, and it never will be. To get motivated to do one of these, there's just one way, and that's the fact that you just love doing it. And I'm old. Oh man, I'm be 74 here in a couple of weeks, and so to get an old 74-year-old man excited and motivated about something that requires this much work is a big deal. And I'm so fortunate to be in this position, and so fortunate to have so many of you that share in my enthusiasm and my abilities to do these things and share them with you. So anyway, I appreciate everything that you guys say. I watch all of it. I read all of it. I try to answer all the questions to the best of my ability. And I'm glad to have you with me. We'll go along with this thing and build it together. So until I have something more solid, as soon as I find out I'm going to get this mold, I'm going to have a party. Because if I get this mold, that means I get to build this lamp. And that would make me extremely happy. Well, anyway, thank you again. I appreciate it. Hey, look, I just looked down at the phone here. I never pay that much attention to it. And my man, Brendan Herdeman from Dublin, Ireland, is watching. Brendan is very skilled himself. I wish you'd, I think I featured his work on my, he's a flight case builder. And if you don't know what that is, go down in my Facebook page until you see these black things that look like, every time you see a rock band and you see all those big things that roll around on wheels with all their instruments and stuff in it, that's what Brendan does. And he's one of the best in the world at it. And we're good Facebook buddies, and I appreciate him. And he's hardcore Irish from Dublin. So glad to have you along, Brendan. Anyway, I'm all done. Man, I'm burned out tonight. So I'm going to go sit down and rest a while. And I will talk to you folks. Hey, good night, Mary. Thank you. Get some rest. All right. Bye-bye, folks. Thanks again. I appreciate it.